When I was younger, I used to believe that the competition was between me and others outside of me. As I got older, I got wiser, and I realized that the competition was never with those outside of me, my external world. The competition, the battle, was with me and me. The battlefield of the mind is where you will have some of your most toughest battles. But they're not going to be with outside forces. They're going to be within you. It's you versus you. It's the version of yourself that you want to be versus the version of yourself that you're on your way to. Sometimes it may feel like you're the villain in your own story, the inner voice that tells you you can't, you're not enough, that blank isn't for people like you, that people from this place can't get to these heights, can't get to these levels, can't achieve these things. And we start to believe that voice. We make decisions off that voice, or we remain stuck on the hamster wheel because of that inner voice. And you know what happens? We start hearing that voice enough, and those voices become beliefs, and those beliefs turn into actions or lack of action. The way to move from the position of being a puppet at your own expense to becoming the puppeteer in your story is learning mental toughness. To me, mental toughness is breaking past the barriers of your mind, the part that tries to keep you safe, keep you protected at your own expense. That part of your brain that wants you to be safe but doesn't realize that it keeps you small, it keeps you broke, it keeps you not advancing. Mental toughness to me is having the courage to do the things that you're afraid of, to get uncomfortable, to push through the mental barriers even when it hurts a little bit or maybe a lot, to show up for yourself even when you don't feel like it. Mental toughness is choosing to be better and better every single day. And I won't lie to you, it's hella hard. It's hard to see setbacks as setups for comebacks. It's hard to get back up when you failed over and over again. It's hard, matter of fact, to see a failure as a lesson and an opportunity for growth. It's hard to put our egos in our back pocket so that we can actually learn and grow and move forward. It's hella hard to face the fact that the villain was never outside of us. It was a character we constructed on our own in the name of our own safety and our own protection, but at the expense of our growth, our evolution, of advancement. That type of safety, though it feels good, it comes at a high price. So how do we master mental toughness? Let's pause right here and point out that mastery takes a very long time. It could take years, it could take decades. But what I can give you are some practical steps to begin today or tomorrow if you need to, but I recommend today. The first step for me that I practice with mental toughness is I started to reframe my beliefs the way I thought. When thoughts came up, I was very quick to either jot them down or to correct them in the moment. This takes practice. It takes practice to replace a very negative thought that is putting you down or keeping you back and replacing that thought with an empowering one. It takes practice, practice, practice. You will fail. There will be times when you miss the thoughts. There will be times when you go backwards. That is okay. The point is the intentional effort towards doing that. And the more you keep practicing that muscle and strengthening it, the more better you'll get at reframing. I'll use an example. Like I mentioned before, mental toughness is choosing to see setbacks as opportunities for comebacks. This is something that I believe for over 15 years now, since I first started getting into the business world at the age of 18 and studying mental toughness and what these great millionaires and business owners were doing, CEOs and such. You have to start reframing your failures as opportunities to grow, as opportunities to learn, as things that we can use as stepping stones to push forward to our future. What will happen with consistency is that your conscious mind will override your subconscious mind and your body. Your new way of thinking will replace the old ways of thinking. And again, this takes time. This takes practice. And this takes being honest and real with yourself. I love this quote, and I mentioned this before this year, by David Goggins. And it says, if your mind knows it won't quit, your body will adapt to whatever you throw at it. It's some type of version of that quote, but I say it that way in my head. And that sums up the first step. Ladies and probably gentlemen, if you're watching this, you have to override the old way of thinking, the old thought processes, the old beliefs, because until you change that thought process you have in there, that as even David Goggins says, that inner dialogue, if you don't change that, nip it in the bud, it will be hard to advance. And I'm just being completely honest. It will be very hard to advance. There's a reason why when I'm approach different things, I have a specific type of mindset. I choose not to say, for instance, oh, I never win anything, or things don't ever work out for me. I have to be quick with it. Oh no, maybe it didn't work out today, but there are plenty of opportunities for things to work out for me. You know, just switching it real quick, writing it down real quick. An example could be with this, with the seeing things as opportunities, is say that you got a no, okay? And you don't understand why you got this no, or maybe you keep getting no's. And so you decide, instead of just moping and crying about it, you say, let me reach back out to this individual or this company and say, hey, you know, I prepared for this and I noticed that you said no, which is totally fine, but I wanted to see if you can give me some feedback on why you said no, so that I can improve for the next person I reach out to, or the next company, or the next job interview. It's taking feedback, taking that opportunity and getting a learning experience. And for me, as someone who, I haven't been on the side of being interviewed a lot, but I've interviewed a lot of people and I've recruited people in my lifetime. And what I've learned is people who ask questions like that, people who, that's, to me, that's a sign of somebody I might actually end up, wanting to hire them or bring them on my team, just because they're making an initiative. They want to improve. That shows qualities of a leader, of a hard worker, of somebody who really wants this. Figure out what works in that situation. And basically the goal, the theme is figuring out what you can do to get better. But because who better to learn from than the person who was trying to recruit you, or the person you were trying to sell to, or the person who you were trying to ask on a date, or the company who you wanted to work with. You know what I mean? So using those opportunities, just tweaking that mindset can make a big change. A lot of us keep doing the same thing over and over again, and we don't figure out, okay, why isn't this working? Let me try something different. So try to improve upon yourself in those certain situations. Mental toughness requires that you intentionally, consciously are aware of your thoughts. You make an active change to change those thoughts, to reframe those thoughts, to reprogram those thoughts. And then from there, you act on them. And if you cannot do that, I do not know what to tell you. So choosing to be this way and doing it over and over again, you'll start to become mentally tough, and you'll be tougher and tougher and tougher as that muscle continues to grow. A second thing that I would do when it comes to mental toughness is I would start to set small personal goals or small intentions, small personal promises. I have videos on this. I will link them below. But you want to make these small, especially if you're not someone who normally conquers your goals or, is able to actually reach them. Start small, baby steps with your habits, with your goals. And what will happen is your body will start to believe when you say that you're going to do something, that you are going to do it, because you've shown based off of evidence from the past, because everything before right now is the past. So based on evidence, you show that when you say you're going to do something, you do it, or you go after it with everything you got. See, it's different if you don't reach the goal, but then you were slacking or being lazy, versus when you go after the goal, you don't hit the goal, but you get farther than you were the first time. To use this as an example so you understand, I ran a 5K, and that's where I actually got the idea for this video. Was I ran a 5K, and I've been trying to run for years after I hurt my ankle. My training did not start in January of this year, even though my running started in January of this year. My training started years ago. It started with me going to physical therapy. That was my baby steps. It was walking. My first one was walk 1 time a week, and I walked 1 time a week. Then it was walking twice a week. Then it was 3, 4, 5. Then it was like a daily thing. Sometimes during my goals, it was doing somatic work. I had all these small habits that I implemented over time. And this wasn't, again, overnight. This was not quick. This was consistent effort. It was a marathon. It wasn't sprinting. It was doing these things to be able to build a strength up so that I could run again. Because again, ankle injuries, they are a chain reaction. It goes all the way up your body. You start having knee pain, you have hip pain, you have back pain, you have neck pain. It just, I think it's called a kinetic chain. I can't think of what it's called right now, but there's a chain reaction that happens, a ripple effect from having instability in your feet and your ankles, mobility, flexibility. Finally, I got to the point, because I tried last year to run, but finally I got to the point this year, in the beginning, where I said, you know what? I think I'm ready, because I could walk fast enough, so I know I should be able to run if I have the right mechanism, and I don't do it with the intention of being fast, but with the intention of finishing well, having good form, breathing well. And so my goal was, I want to run a 5K, not walk a 5K, not walk and run. I wanted to run and complete a 5K. And I did just that. I ran over 37 times. I think it was like 42 runs before before I ran the race on April 4th, 2026. Okay. And I want to tell you that the mental toughness came in because there were times when the alarm went off and I didn't want to run. It was cold outside. It was like 30 degrees in Vegas in the morning when I had to run at like 5 a.m. There were some times when I didn't want to run because, my body felt tired. There was times when I was in the run when I wanted to stop and walk. And I could tell you that whole 40 something runs, there was only 3 times that I walked. It was the initial run because you're supposed to walk on that one. And then there was the time when I came back from my trip. If you've seen my vlogs, I was so tired. I couldn't even it was terrible. It was really bad. I was so tired. So I walked for I think 30 seconds on one of my 2-mile runs. And then the third time was actually after the run. And it was because my hip hurt after running the 5K, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. I pushed myself a little bit too much, but hip is doing good now. So those 3 times out of all those runs, if I had to slow down and jog, I jogged a little bit slower, but I kept going. And I want you to understand that I was getting the voices in my head. Man, Alana, your hip hurts. You should slow down. Your hip's going to hurt. My hip didn't hurt at the time. It was just my body going based off of previous experiences of pain, was trying to get me to be safe, which I respect my body. I love my body for that. But I knew I could push myself a little bit further. Oh, you're a little sore today, but you're supposed to be sore when you run. I'm doing it the right way. I'm making sure I have the proper form. I'm making sure I do it gradually. I'm not going out there and sprinting. I'm doing it right. And I had to remind myself in those moments that I could do it. You can do it. And I want to tell you, on the day I ran that 5K, I wanted to quit so bad because it was the first day I had ever ran a 5K. My training program did not even get me to the point of being at a 5K at 3.1 miles. I only went to 2 miles, and I ran a few times, I think up to 2.25. So I ran an extra 0.8 miles or 0.9 miles in that one day, when the rest of the times I had been gradually over weeks expanding like that. So I ended up hurting my hip in that process. But my point is, I told myself I wasn't going to give up. And even though I didn't get the time I wanted, I slowed down because I knew that I couldn't run that fast, because then I would end up injuring myself, which again, I did end up having a little bit of hip pain afterwards. So being able to talk yourself into those moments, and see the vision, see yourself passing the finish line, seeing yourself having the body you want, the life you want, and understanding that there is going to be pressure, there is going to be discomfort. That is where the good things happen. You have to stop thinking that everything's going to be easy. Some things will come easy, of course, but they take effort in the beginning. And a lot of that effort is the mental part. I don't think I would have ever made that 5K if I didn't have mental toughness, if I didn't learn how to push through the barriers of my mind, to tell myself that it is okay, body, you got this. I know you can do it because we prepared for it. We've done this. We can see it in our mind. So I know we could put our feet to the ground. And that's hard. It's so hard in the moment to keep running when you want to walk so bad. I'm telling you, it's like I wanted to walk so bad, but I kept going. Just slow down a little bit, and that's okay. Now I'm in a new training program to still run a 5K, not to go for 10K, because I want to get faster. And I know that I can. It takes effort. It takes willpower. It takes deciding. Decide. The root of decide is side. Genocide, homicide. It means to put to death. So you have to put to death all other options and know that this is what you're going for. And again, if you don't make it to that goal in the process, that's okay. That's okay, because you got steps further. You just go after it again, or you go after it with a different angle, a different game plan. So like for this training program, I use a different coach. So we'll see if this one, I like it better than the other one. Maybe this one I'll get faster. And then I have a 10K plan that I had actually bought in December. So I have a plan for that, and I'll do that after summer, because I know I'm not going to run a 10K outside when it's hot in Vegas. That's why I'm doing a 5K, just to get faster. But continue on, keep pushing through. The third thing I would say is kind of like a fast track way, is setting up your environment to win. Be surrounded by people who are better than you. A lot of us, again, ego, we need to put it in the back pocket. If you're the smartest person in the room, or smartest person in your group of friends, the most wealthiest, the most successful, you need to get another group of friends. Not saying that you can't have those friends, but you need to have another group of friends that is more successful than you, that helps push you, helps pull you forward. Because then you could understand, how do I imitate and how do I start to think like them? That's the thing I like to learn most from people who are wealthier than me, who have more money, more assets, the family life I want. I want to know the mindset, like what got you to think like this? Because if you could think like this person, you start to act like this person. You get what I mean? Because your thoughts end up running the show. And if you actively seek these people out, it's a win-win. So definitely look to do that. And if you can't get in front of, like, say, an actual physical person, that's when you start reading books, getting in on audio, start thinking and talking like these people. Go to conferences, go to investment conferences, go to business conferences, go to networking events, and you will meet these type of people. You have to put yourself in places to experience that. You can't just think that being in your house or being by yourself that you're going to find those type of individuals. The last thing I would say that is important, it's not totally necessary, but I think that you should start tracking and journaling as much as you want. Like, it could be a bullet journal type of situation. It could be journaling, because this will help you to kind of see and, what is the word I'm looking for? Lock in to, that's not even the word I'm looking for, but we'll say that, lock in and see what are you doing well and what are you not doing well. So then you can figure out ways to tweak it. Because maybe you keep thinking a certain thought and you're like, why do I keep thinking this even though I've said this is what I want to believe? You could drill down on that while you're journaling. Oh, I thought this, I am not worthy. Why do I think I'm not worthy? How can I start to feel more worthy? How can I start to speak this into my life? And it will help you get real close with yourself, because a lot of us aren't close with ourselves. We think we are, but when you start journaling or talking to yourself, excuse me, or talking to yourself. I know that sounds what's called loco, a little bit crazy, but sometimes you got to talk to yourself and, meet yourself and make sure that you are all good and see where you're at and where you want to be. And that's totally fine. Another thing you could do is you could journal your wins. Man, I ran a mile today. Man, instead of walking today, I continue to run, even though my time was shorter. Man, I got 10 no's today, but this one person said yes and I closed the deal. Man, I emailed 10 other companies to be able to work with them for brand deals. All of them said no, but then I got this idea. And so I reached out to other brands that I really, really liked, and I'm feeling confident about it. Even if they don't say yes, the fact that I got this creative idea, I can't snap, but like, it's everything. And just start celebrating the wins. You could write that down in a journal too. And that helps you to become more mentally tough, because then you could see where you were uncomfortable, but then you chose to step outside of that comfort zone. For me, this looks like, another thing for me was like heights. I'm terrified of heights, but I choose to put myself in situations where I'm up high so that I can face my fears. So for me, it would look like every time I go on an airplane. Like the last time I was on an airplane, I was like, oh, wow, you were only scared for the takeoff part. And once you were in the air, you were good. That's a win. And start paying attention to that, how you're able to get your brain to see a different perspective, to pivot from its old way of thinking and shift into a new way of thinking. I may be scared of heights the rest of my life. It might be the truth. It might be, but maybe I won't be. Maybe I will be able to heal that part of me based off of my continuous effort. And it's continuous. I've been doing this for years. It took me a long time to get to the point where only taking off made me scared. The whole flight, I was good. Even turbulence came and I wasn't freaking out. So start to track those things and celebrate the wins. And I mean, really celebrate them. Don't just be like, oh, I did it, but like get excited in your body. Because if you keep holding on to excitement, it doesn't come out, and trapped emotions create dis-ease, disease, stress, and a bunch of other things. Don't hold it inside, let it out, celebrate. Whether you become mentally tough or not doesn't matter, or is not based off of the fact of where you came from. It doesn't take into consideration what cards you felt you were dealt. Mental toughness comes through for the people who put in the work and that effort, the conscious effort to change, to reprogram, to reframe, to pivot, to grow, to expand. What matters is the you right now, not the you were yesterday or even 5 minutes ago. Where is she headed? What is she going to do? How is she going to show up? What beliefs is she going to carry with her in her heart for the rest of her life? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. With all my love, Lana.